Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Greetings, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the founder and president of Produce Buzz, along with Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetto, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. Well, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, did you miss us? We have not been able to record or publish for the last month because we were hit hard by Hurricane Helene here in Hendersonville, North Carolina, where I'm based and where the podcast is produced. We lost adequate internet service and could not get a connection that would allow us to connect to record because of the slow speeds we were experiencing via cell phone service, which was the only connection we could get until our regular service was restored this past week. The devastation from that storm was unlike anything the mountains of western North Carolina has ever seen. Whole towns were washed away, and power and water was cut off for millions in the region for weeks. Some are still without power and water. Many lost their entire homes and businesses, and others lost their lives and family members. So please keep the people in the area in mind, and if you can donate to a qualified charity to help alleviate the disaster, please consider doing so. It will be many years before life is back to normal for many, many people here, and they will need your help. But the Produce Buzzers are back and ready to fulfill your passion for all things fruit and veggie. We were fortunate here where I live and have much to be thankful for considering what others went through. So in this episode, we want to begin our celebration of Thanksgiving a little bit early and help you prepare for the upcoming holiday as well. Today, we will talk about some traditional dishes that you can serve at your meal, but we also want to feature some unique fruits and vegetables that are in season during the fall, but perhaps you have not thought about including them in your Thanksgiving menu. Not that we are trying to dissuade you from the usual fruit and veggie dishes like sweet potatoes, green beans, mashed potatoes, and the like, but we thought you might want to experiment with a couple of unusual produce items that can surprise and delight your Thanksgiving guests. But first, I've asked each of our Produce Buzzers to tell us about a special recipe they are planning to make and serve this year at Thanksgiving. So let's go around the horn and see what they will dish up for us. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, who wants to start? Who wants to give us their fruit or veggie recipe?
I will start, okay.
Our fearless leader, always fearless and always leading. Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, well, you're so welcome. And I'm telling you that for me, no Thanksgiving is complete without sweet potatoes. And it's the simplest thing you can make with sweet potatoes, just a baked sweet potato. And if you bake them just right, you will be amazed at how sweet they really are. Wow. And I actually looked online to see how other people prepared baked sweet potatoes, and it's very interesting. There were very few recipes that I approved of. Of course, I have my stamp of approval.
Yeah, Teresa's taste is exquisite. It always has the best ways to prepare these dishes. So yes, let's hear.
Okay, so you take your sweet potatoes, you wash them well, and I actually usually start to shorten the cooking process. I use Rick's favorite convenience item, the microwave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll start them and cook them depending on how many you have, and that's where it gets different, you know, a couple, even 3 sweet potatoes can take 15 minutes to get them soft in the microwave.
Mm.
And then after I cook them, I take them and put them in the oven at 350 degrees, and I let them bake for at least a half an hour, sometimes longer, depending on how large they are. But you want them to start looking like almost like the flesh is sinking in a little bit. So they get softer and softer. And that just concentrates all those natural sugars in the sweet potato. And you would think that they were sweetened with sugar, just because when you cut into them, they will be incredibly sweet.
Yeah.
Now, of course, due to my diet, which I do sometimes break, I don't put any butter or anything like that on them. I just eat them straight with just right out of the skin. But, you know, if you're a butter fanatic, you can cut into them and add your butter. You can add whatever else. I mean, salt to me just takes away from the wonderful sweetness. So no salt necessary. And it's really good. And, you know, I don't have a recipe for it, but you could probably go on to like the North Carolina Yam Association or one of the Louisiana Yam or Sweet Potato Association and find a good recipe for a sweet potato pie, which I think is maybe better than a pumpkin pie. And you can just use those sweet potatoes in the recipe itself. Again, no sugar necessary, really healthy for you. Lots of vitamin A, good for your skin. And that's my contribution.
Yeah. Loaded with beta carotene. Good for
Yes.
your eyes, too.
Yes. Now, if you don't want to use the microwave, I say you put them in and they're, you know, various cooking times based on the temperature of your oven. I noticed one recipe gave like 375, cook for at least an hour and 15 minutes. You might even want to go longer than that to get them to that level of sweetness. But it went anywhere from 375 up to 400 degrees in the oven. And you cook them a little less time based on that temperature swing. But none of them were cooked for less than an hour at those temperatures.
Yeah.
So
I know some people like on baked potatoes, and I've seen people do this on sweet potatoes, put a fork, stab them with a fork before they go in the microwave.
I don't.
You don't do that. There's no need to do that. Okay.
I always use a glass cover in my microwave if I'm putting them in the microwave, because if, you know, that way it keeps the microwave from getting splattered terribly.
Yeah, but is that the reason, or is it about being splattered, or is that like having to do with like letting steam out, or like
it's to let the steam out, but you know, you've seen a regular potato explode in a microwave, haven't you?
No, I don't cook my potatoes in a microwave.
She doesn't even own a microwave.
Oh my goodness. I feel so sorry for you, Cynthia.
If you're going to cook those sweet potatoes entirely in the microwave, you do want to maybe take a knife and put some slits in there, because as it gets hotter and hotter, it can explode.
Yeah.
I've never had one.
Well, you're not cooking them fully, so that's probably okay. You said 15 minutes for 3.
Yeah.
Depending on how many, if you're going to serve do you serve each of your guests one whole sweet potato, or do you cut it in half?
Well, at Thanksgiving, usually people would cut them because usually you have way too much food anyway, and you can't get it all on your plate.
Yeah.
Now, if I were just having a Thanksgiving for me and one other person, I would probably eat the whole sweet potato and cut back on some of the other stuff. But since I'm going to have a minimum of 10 people this year for Thanksgiving, I have a feeling those sweet potatoes will be cut in pieces.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's probably the only I don't know, the only time that's strong, but like probably one of the few times that I would agree with you that that could be eaten, no salt, no butter, no sugar.
There you have it, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. The testimony by the sugarholic right here.
Words you
Oh,
never thought you'd
man.
hear from me.
That's right. So all you sugar lovers, Cynthia
Yeah.
has given it the seal of approval.
Yeah, and that your thought about using them for pie as opposed to pumpkin. Of course, pumpkin is not sweet at all, hardly.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some sugar in there, so you get a bit of sweetness, but you really need a lot of sugar for a pumpkin pie. But it's interesting. I
Mhm.
think I understand how a sweet potato would not need sugar for a good pie. Now, I'm sure
It-
Cynthia doesn't agree with that, but
I don't
She
think
could
that
probably,
I don't think I would want my sweet potato to be a pie. I like the pumpkin, and also I'm not sure could you make the filling the same consistency as a pumpkin pie.
I
what
think
it,
you can, and you just add the pumpkin spice to it.
yeah. What is the other ingredient in pumpkin pie filling other than
And it
pumpkin?
like condensed milk or evaporated milk or something
I
like
think
that.
they add
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Egg, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Probably.
egg
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And what's the
Teresa, I have a
best?
question. If
Okay.
you, for those who only have one oven at Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
would you, w once the turkey's done, you have to pull it out and let it rest for a little while, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So would there be enough time if you started the microwave before the turkey was done and softened them up, and then put them into the oven right after the turkey? Would there be enough time?
Why
Well,
wouldn't
it,
you just put them in on a different, like if your turkey, your turkey's like in your oven, why wouldn't you just put your sweet potatoes on a different rack?
that's what I do. I just, I do have more than one oven, so I'm lucky, but
Mm.
you can put them on a tray or in a bowl in beside the turkey. And it's cooking probably at a lower temperature at that point, because usually I start my turkey like on 400 at 400 or 425 and then cut it down and cook it at a lower temperature like 325.
So 325, so is all you'd have to do is just do it for longer. So
Yeah.
if you were gonna nuke it for like a little bit, like just like why waste the energy and why get the radiation from
Yeah. Yeah. You
the
can
the
just put them in
microwave?
when you put the turkey in and just let them
Exactly,
cook.
yeah. And then you
Keep an
can
eye on
smell.
it.
The thing with the sweet potatoes, I feel like, is you can smell when they're done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, very interesting. Thank you, Teresa. That sounds delicious. And sweet potatoes, so good. All right, who's next? Rick, do you want to give us
Sure.
your recipe?
This is a non-traditional recipe that I'm going to have this year.
Good.
Two of my sons, my youngest son and my middle son, went moose hunting in Newfoundland, Canada this year, and they both got a moose.
Wow.
And so they're going to have about 800 pounds of moose meat. So since my sons were moose hunting in Canada, in Newfoundland, I've looked on the internet to find a recipe from Newfoundland on how to cook a moose roast. And this comes from Dawn from Girl Heart Food. And it's slow cooker moose roast and vegetables. You can also use a beef roast if you don't happen to have a moose roast.
Okay.
I was worried.
That's fair.
I was concerned about that recipe. What
How
to
about
do? What to do?
how about reindeer?
Yeah, you can do it with reindeer.
Yeah, okay.
A moose is in the deer family. The moose is the largest member of the deer family, so it's actually venison, and it tastes very similar to a deer.
Yeah.
But if you know how to cook it properly, it tastes very similar.
Isn't that gamey?
It can be. Uh, and a professional knows how to cut the meat so that they don't have the tallow.
The fat.
Yeah, the tallow, which is fat, yeah, uh, has a very gamey flavor. So you have to remove all that with venison. And then it tastes more like beef.
Well, venison typically is very lean anyway, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And the fat it does have, the tallow, is what gives it the gamey flavor. So a
Yeah.
lot of people would make the mistake in just taking a venison roast, and just cooking it without removing that. And then
I would have to be on about day 15 of a starvation, like hunger strike for me to try that, I think.
well, do you like beef roast?
Yes.
Venison, if it's prepared properly, is better than a beef roast. You just have to find someone who knows how to just follow a recipe if you ever have venison.
I don't think I'm going to have that problem, but thank you.
Does the butcher service remove the tallow, or is that something you have to do once
Yeah,
you?
when like Lori's brothers, they've been butchering their own deer for probably 40 years, and they have a technique. They take like a fillet knife, like you'd cut fish with, and they cut it a certain way so that they remove all that excess tallow,
Yeah.
and then they freeze it. Because even freezing that can give the meat a flavor.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It really needs to be removed.
Yeah. Got
But
it.
anyway, so Cynthia doesn't like cooked turkey, but this would probably be a no-brainer for her. I'd venture to
Yeah,
say,
exactly.
yeah,
Real easy for me.
you probably cook beef roast occasionally, don't you, Cynthia?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff I don't have a problem with, but would
Yeah,
I would do a pot roast or like a chuck in the slow cooker, but I'm not going to do like a nice piece of meat, like a standing rib roast or something like that. Like
right.
that's got to be
Yeah.
in the oven.
So you have a recipe? Can you
Yes.
give us the veggies that go with this?
Yes. The ingredients is a boneless moose roast.
Say
This
that 5
says a
times fast.
2 pound. This recipe says a 2 pound boneless moose roast. 2 teaspoons of salt, 1.5 tablespoons of avocado oil,
Hmm.
1 yellow onion, 2 pounds of baby potatoes, 1 pound of carrots, 2 cloves of garlic, a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, 2 cups of beef broth, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1/2 tablespoon of chopped fresh thyme leaves, 1/2 tablespoon of fresh rosemary leaves, 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, chopped fresh thyme leaves or parsley, garnished to taste. There's quite a few servings of vegetables in this recipe.
Yeah, it seems loaded.
If you didn't want to eat meat, you could just eat the vegetables flavored with the meat afterwards.
Yeah.
Have some turkey instead. So here are the instructions. Season the roast and brown. Pat the moose roast dry of any excess moisture with some paper towels. Then season the roast with 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Heat the avocado oil in a large cast iron pan over medium heat. Brown and sear the moose roast all over. Then cook the roast and the vegetables. Place the onions, potatoes, carrots, and garlic into a 6-quart slow cooker, which I call a crock pot. Season the vegetables with salt and black pepper and Worcestershire sauce. Place moose roast over the top. Then sprinkle over the thyme and rosemary. Cover and cook on high for 5 to 6 hours or low for 8 to 10 hours until the vegetables are cooked thoroughly and tender. Transfer the vegetables and the roast to a serving platter, leaving the broth in the slow cooker for now. Slow cookers may vary, so cook until the meat is cooked thoroughly and pulls apart tender. Make the gravy. Before starting, if you want a smooth gravy, strain the broth from the slow cooker into a large measuring cup or bowl to remove any solid bits, like onions. I happen to like those bits in there, extra flavor, but you can remove them if you want. Next, melt butter in a saucepan over medium heat. Stir in flour to form a paste and cook 2 to 3 minutes to cook out the flour taste. Slowly pour the broth into the butter flour mixture, whisking as you are adding it. Bring it to a simmer and cook for a few minutes until thickened. If needed, season with a little salt and black pepper. If the gravy is too thick and you need to thin it out, you could add another splash or so of beef broth until you have the consistency you like best. Serve the gravy over the roast and vegetables. Garnish with thyme or parsley if desired. This yields about 4 generous servings.
Great. Wow, that sounds delicious. And of course, I don't think there's too many people out there who have a moose roast handy, ready for Thanksgiving. So you can substitute the beef roast instead. But thanks, Rick, for that delicious recipe. Listening to the recipe and thinking about Newfoundland, there's a couple of stories that came to my mind from experiences I've had in the past with venison, deer type meat. One of the best meals I ever had was in Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland. And it was caribou.
Wow.
And it had lingonberry sauce, which, lingonberries are basically cranberries.
Right.
And fiddleheads was the fiddleheads and potatoes. Have you ever had fiddleheads? They are fantastic.
Yes.
You know
You
what
have to
they
be
are,
careful
right?
with those, like you have
Ferns.
to be,
Yeah,
Ferns,
they're ferns that haven't uncurled yet.
but
Right.
don't you have to be careful with when you like how you eat them?
Well, I'm sure you do. And I'm sure there's probably not like mushrooms. There's probably various different kinds of ferns. You could probably wind up with the wrong one. But I trusted the restaurant to know what they were doing, and I survived it. And not only did I survive it, it was delicious. My other story, I think I may have told this to you before. I'll make it short. But if I've told you, you can stop me. I was in Idaho a few years ago. We were eating at this resort, and it was on the lake, and as you look out across this meadow, you could see wild elk roaming all across the meadow. And so they bring us the menu, and I look at the menu, and it's got elk on the menu. I said, fantastic. I've got to order the elk because we're right here in elk country. So I had the meal. It was delicious. The waiter came back after and said, so how was everything? I said, oh, that elk was fantastic. I said, I think I've had elk before, but that was really, really good. I said, I bet you just shot it this morning right out there. He goes, oh, no, sir. These came from New Zealand.
And so where are your potatoes from? Maine?
Oh, dear.
True story. And he was serious. He wasn't joking. All right. Well, Rick, thank you for that delicious moose roast recipe with all those veggies. Sounds great. I hope you enjoy it at your Thanksgiving meal. Cynthia.
And one other thing, though, before I go, you mentioned the lingonberries.
Yeah.
My simple cranberry recipe, I just love it. And I have to make it for every Thanksgiving. All you do is substitute 1 cup of orange juice for the 1 cup of water in a regular cranberry recipe like you find on the bag. And it's so much better than using water. Orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice really adds flavor to it. And that's what I would serve along with the roast and the vegetables.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, Cynthia, what have you got to share with us for this Thanksgiving to make our Thanksgiving meal brighter, tastier, more delicious?
So going to my friend's giving, I couldn't decide what kind of pie to make. So I took a big sheet pan and I made 4 different pies.
Wow.
An apple pie, a blueberry pie, pumpkin, and pecan.
Oh, nice.
So I did a big pie crust for 1 sheet pan, but then you do have to make little barriers, if you will, to divide the sheet pan.
Oh.
And they all pretty much cook it the same. You just have to watch the way they're browning and cover some if it's getting too dark. I did a top over the apple pie. I did lattice over the blueberry, and then pumpkin was open, and then the pecan pie, of course, has its texture. So it would need a lot more practice, but it was good insofar as it was 1 tray to transport, and it was 4 different types of sweets for a party.
Yeah, that's cool. I bet it looked really nice too on the.
So did you just put 1 big piece of pie crust over the top of it then?
No, I only did 1 piece of pie. 1/4 of it was an apple.
Mm-hmm.
And then diagonally, 1/4 of it was the blueberry. And that's where I did like the lattice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2 do not have pie cup, don't have tops.
Yeah. Okay.
But the crust is the bottom crust is the same for all four.
Correct. Well,
And
it is for all four, but you do have to make a crust barrier, if you will.
So you would
Okay.
just pull the crust up and make a little wall around the pie itself.
Well, what I did was I made it one big one
Mm-hmm.
and then added like little dividers. So, but the same thing, like
Yeah.
make little walls, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's what I did.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Do you leave it on the sheet pan to serve, or do you try to transfer?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's no way
way
that
to
you could
transfer.
no, there's no transfer. That would just be a big, ugly
Right.
mess.
What if you put parchment paper under it and then pulled that up and put it on a platter?
Well, the issue I think would be something like the pecan would be sturdy, apple would be sturdy-ish, but the pumpkin pie and the blueberry like
would
not
be-
so.
Right.
Yeah, they're not viscous enough, I think, to
Yeah,
be
even
able
with
to
the
transport
parchment,
it.
even with the parchment paper being held tight, that would probably be difficult. But anyway, just get a nice looking sheet pan that can look good on the table. Of course, maybe you just have it on the counter.
The
and
sheet pans just
people go by and buffet style.
Yeah, but the sheet pan is nice looking.
Okay.
Like that's not your decoration.
Right. And do you fill it completely? To
Absolutely.
the edges?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Got to see
Again,
that.
what's the point of having a pie if it's not like with the edges?
Yeah. I don't
Do you
know.
pre-bake the crust? Or
I don't. No, I
Yeah.
did not. Mm-mm.
Okay.
And I don't, if I was just making a regular pumpkin pie, I don't blind bake it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you call it? Blind baking?
Uh-huh.
I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that term.
So that's if you want to just bake a pie crust.
Oh, I see. And you didn't know what you
Blind
wanted to
bake it.
fill with.
Mhm,
That's why it's called blind. All right. Very
No, I
good.
think that like some pies do better with the blind than
Right.
others, but I just like pop the whole thing in.
Yeah.
But I'll do an egg wash so it doesn't get soggy.
And they
it.
had similar bake times. Is that what you're saying?
I just kind of had to sort of make it work.
Mm-hmm. Was this your creation, or did you find a
Mhm.
recipe for it?
I
Take
found
credit. Come on, take credit.
No,
for
I
it.
found the picture and I was like, oh, perfect.
I can do that.
One whole pan, good. It
Mhm.
was a lot of friggin' work. It was more work than I had anticipated, but it was worth it.
Mm.
Excellent. What time should we be over?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Here directly.
Here directly.
All right.
Cynthia, do you use pie filling or do you use fresh fruit?
Oh,
Okay, I didn't hear what you said.
No, that's a good question.
when have I ever used, you know what? Before I completely, let me just like, you just cut me to the quick and let me just like refocus. Sorry.
And cook it.
Oh, I just
in the
hallucinated
microwave.
just then. Okay, sorry.
Use pie filling and cook it in
like-
the microwave.
But it would be the only thing that would be filling would be pumpkin, because I will use Libby's, of course.
Rather than using a fresh.
Right. But for everything else, like I got a scratch kitchen, man.
Good for you. All right. Okay, well, we've had a couple of traditional dishes and one unusual dish. I'm going to stick with the unusual side, something maybe you've not thought about for Thanksgiving, but they come into season at this time of year and can make a really, really, add a really, really unique flavor to a lot of dishes. And this fruit is persimmons.
Mm.
And with their sweet and tart flavor, they can be a substitute for cranberries if you wish. Although I love cranberries so much, I would never suggest that you leave the cranberries off of the Thanksgiving table, but maybe go and complement them with something with persimmons. There's a lot of great recipes out there with persimmons that will fit into your Thanksgiving dinner. But I'm going to focus in on a salad. Now, what you want to use the fuyu persimmons. There's basically two types of persimmons that you can get at the grocery store this time of year. There's the hachia, which is more astringent, bitter persimmon, and they have to really ripen up well before they're good to eat. But then the fuyu persimmon is non-astringent, and it's the squatter-shaped, tomato-shaped persimmon, and it has lower tannins than the hachias, and they can be eaten when they're firm generally. So that makes it ideal for slicing, enjoying fresh, or adding to salads. And the salad that I want to suggest that you serve ahead of your Thanksgiving meal is a persimmon and pomegranate salad. So there's another unusual fruit, which is also in season this time of year, pomegranates. And the combination of those two is fantastic. So it makes a great, fresh, colorful starter. You slice the fuyu persimmons and toss them with the pomegranate seeds. Then place them over mixed greens. I like a lot of arugula in this recipe, and sometimes you can just make it with arugula, and that's enough. But if you prefer more of a mixed greens taste, use those. And then toasted walnuts sprinkled on top with goat cheese also sprinkled on top.
Okay.
Then to really set it off, a light drizzle of balsamic glaze, or you could do a citrus vinaigrette. I'm partial to the balsamic glaze because of that. The offsets kind of the tartness and the sweetness of the persimmons. So it's beautiful. It's bright. It's a great appetizer. It's kind of light. So, you're going to be eating a lot of heavy foods after this. So this is a good light starter for a Thanksgiving meal. And the persimmons, they can be roasted with other vegetables. That's another great way to serve them at Thanksgiving. And I even found a recipe for stuffing, persimmon and sage stuffing. So I think that would be good to try sometime, but I don't have the recipe for you. But that's just an idea for using persimmons this time of year with an unusual fall fruit that I think your guests would be delightfully surprised to see on a Thanksgiving table, and to set it off a bit.
And those flavors are complementary?
Well, I think so. I've had this persimmon. I've made the persimmon and pomegranate salad before.
Oh, okay.
So if you can think about that, some people don't like the seeds in the pomegranates. Seeds, the juice around is fantastic. The seeds, for some people, are offsetting. One other way I have made this is with dried cranberries instead of the pomegranates. That's a little easier. The texture is a little better for some people, or more acceptable if you don't like the crunchiness of the pomegranate seeds. But that goat cheese, oh man, with the persimmons, that's a fantastic combination. So that's my offering. We wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully, I'm sure you all would say you have a lot to be thankful for, and we certainly do. We're thankful for you, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, for listening and tuning in, and tell others about our podcast. But we're thankful for you, but not enough to let you escape the punishment that we offer at every episode, Produce Buzzers podcast. Yes, it's time for home. Don't run away. Don't turn the volume down. You have to stay tuned. You have to listen and get your punishment. So, Teresa, do you have a homegrown for us today?
Yeah. There was a turkey that was renowned for just, teasing people and doing kind of malicious little jokes on people. And but his friends invited him to Thanksgiving anyway. And Why didn't he show up?
So this is a malicious
Because he was
prankster.
ass up on the table. I
A malicious prankster type of turkey. Was his name Tom?
We can call him Tom.
Okay. Was his friends were kind of annoyed and kind of irked by him, it sounds like, because of all his antics. But they kind of felt sorry for him.
They thought he was gonna be the main event.
That could have been one reason. Yeah.
They felt sorry for him, so they invited him to Thanksgiving dinner anyway. But he didn't show up.
No.
Why did he not show up? Rick?
I've got an answer.
Okay.
Because he was a wild turkey, and somebody called the animal control in New York, and they put him under.
Wild turkey, well done, yeah. Because he was a wild turkey, and he was like drinking instead.
Well, let's see. I mean, Cynthia's already given 2 really bad guesses. I want to see if I can get. I was trying to think of something with the acronym AWOL. That's not working. So the turkey didn't show up. I don't know, because he couldn't cross the road? No, that's
That's a good one.
Because there was a tree in the way.
Okay, I give up. Everybody else give up?
Uncle, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Why did this prankster turkey not show up for Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, he had come up with a particularly bad prank, and he was arrested for foul play.
Oh,
man.
That was close to Rick's guess.
Yeah.
Wild turkey, foul play. Well, we're all turkeys for falling for that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, for tuning in. Sorry about that punishment, but we have to do it every time. And we do wish you a happy and healthy Thanksgiving celebration. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page, and check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.